Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I hope you've had a good week. And today's lesson, in the first part, we're going to be looking at the differences in society and particularly in the workplace of men and women, gender and the workplace, as an introduction to report writing of women in work. Before we actually do the report writing, I'd like you to have a look at the screen, please. You don't have this on a handout, but you don't need it, don't worry. I'd like you to work in groups, so you can work in pairs, or you can work in groups of 3, whichever you like. And I want you just to brainstorm, please. Brainstorm your ideas, and can you compile? Compile means list. Can you compile a word and a phrase list you associate with gender and the workplace? Okay, gender and the workplace. So please have a think, discuss it together, and just write down your ideas, please. Do that in pairs or groups of 3. Okay. Can you write down the list in your notebooks, please? Just write me down the list. And I don't want you to analyse it too much. I just want you to, when you brainstorm, it's like what comes into your mind without analysing it too much. Okay. Gender and the workplace.
Women have
some other place like the accounting industry, detail work. More definitely,
transparency 透明的，就是我们
A few more minutes for this.
Before you do this, yes, when you get employed or do the interview, or interview take care of children and ask you some questions about are you good at drinking or not? Is that right? So if you get married, then you probably got more chance to get the job. You know what I mean? But if you not get married and you never have a child, then they're gonna say, you're gonna waste your woman.
Have you ever heard about the
Okay. Okay, can I please bring you all back together now? And what I'd like to do is to go around both tables, and if you can give me an answer from each group. If you don't have it on your list, please add it as we go along, and I'll write it on the board. Okay. So, can we start over here, please, gentlemen? Can you give me one word that you discussed? Gender in the workplace.
Discrimination.
Discrimination, thank you. Okay. Discrimination. What type of word is that? How would you classify that word? The word class. Do you remember that word, word class? Word class means type of word, like noun, adjective, adverb. It's a noun. Good. It's a noun. Well done. Thank you. Over here, please. Can you give me a word from your group?
Positions.
Pardon?
Positions.
Position.
High positions.
Okay. Are you thinking of like management?
Yeah, management.
Okay. Let's put management there then. Okay. With a capital M. Over here, please. Can you give me a word from your list? Do you have a word?
There's a carrier ceiling, the glass ceiling for
Transparent.
Pardon?
the glass ceiling.
Economic theory? Oh,
Transparent.
ceiling.
Yes.
Glass ceiling. Where have you heard of glass ceiling? Glass ceiling, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me where did you hear that? Where have you seen glass ceiling?
For example, in some senior positions,
Yes.
and the women it's not possible to get the very high position
Okay,
because
good.
of this ceiling.
Okay, so have you studied this already? You know about glass ceiling. Have you heard of it, everybody?
I heard.
Okay. Well, that's a very interesting one, because I don't know if you saw it on the sheets I've given you, but we're going to look at glass ceilings tonight. Okay, so don't worry if you've not heard it, if we're going to work on this today, so that's a good answer. Okay. Next pair, please, over here. Can you give me a word or a term?
Inequality.
Pardon?
Inequality.
Inequality. Okay, thank you. Next, please.
Abuse?
Abuse. Okay. It's interesting this, isn't it? Because when you're brainstorming this, have you noticed how, with the exception of management, which is a neutral word, all the others are quite negative, aren't they? Have you noticed that? There's no positive word here. Okay. How about over here?
Salary is
word, please?
different.
Pardon?
Salary is different.
Salary difference. Okay. Do you have any more you would like to add? Anybody now? From any group? Do any of you have any positive words on your list?
Yeah.
Talk of political position.
Pardon?
Political position.
Political position. Well, that could be a neutral. That could be a neutral term, really, couldn't it? Okay. Anybody have any positive words?
I think women, I don't know the word, but women are better leader than men.
Do you have any proof of that?
You can just
Can
say
you
this.
justify that point of
You
view?
have Angela Merkel. She has been running Germany for how long, and the country is doing so good, more than other countries running by men. And you have had Margaret Thatcher. You have in Liberia this woman, Sir Ellen Johnson, something.
The thing with politics, there'll always be difference of opinion. There'll be some people who agree with that, and then there'll be other people who disagree with that, depending on their political
What the
thinking.
man can do, woman can do better.
Pardon?
What the man can do, woman can do better.
You think so?
That's the same.
Oh, okay.
When you have
So
a
whatever a man can do, a woman can do better.
better, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting thought. Okay, like multitasking, for example.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's very
Yes.
true, actually.
Women are more concentrated, even on driving. Men, they just feel like, oh, I know how to drive, but women are more concentrated. And
More careful,
when
yeah.
you see,
Yeah, it's like when you look at insurance,
yeah,
Yeah.
insurance premiums. Who pays the most?
The male.
Young males between 18 and
Yeah.
24. Why is that?
because
Because you're restless.
Because they're more likely to have an accident.
Yes.
Yeah, that they're more reckless in the driving. Okay. Right, good, well done. Well done. So, I think you have in your mind a sort of the word I'm going to give you is disparity. I don't know if you know this word, disparity. Have you heard of it? A disparity is a difference. A sexual disparity, a gender disparity. Because as you'll see later, when we're talking about this glass ceiling that you talked about before, one complaint, particularly in management, higher management, is that there are salary disparities. Men earn more than women for the same job. Okay, can you now please have a look at the vocabulary called men and women? This is now general, it's not related specifically to jobs, but I think it's a nice one. It's an IELTS vocabulary text. And what you've got here, you've got a list of 11 sentences, and I want you to look at the words in bold, please. Look at the words in bold, and you have to decide, are they positive or negative terms, and then put them in the table. If you're not sure, please use a dictionary on your phones. Okay. Okay, don't worry if you're not finished. We'll go through this as a class now. Now, the way you interpret these words, to a certain extent, depends on your own point of view. but these are general terms now in terms of are they positive or negative. So what do we think about the first one? This term, at the interview, the manager was impressed by her astute comments. Is that a new word for you?
Yes.
Did you find it?
Yes.
What does it mean? Can you give me the definition, please?
Insightful.
Insightful, yes, good. Insightful, intelligence. So, do you think that's positive or negative?
Positive.
Very positive, isn't it? Good. If someone says you are an astute person, feel proud. Because they're saying you are intelligent, you are insightful, you are clever. Okay. Number 2. In the power struggle between men and women, neither side will win. What do you think about that one? Power struggle.
Negative.
Negative. What do you think it means? Power struggle. What are we talking about here?
Fighting for power.
Pardon?
Fighting for power.
Not so much fighting for power, but
Equality?
yeah, it's like, if you like, it's like to eliminate sexual discrimination, to have equality, to prevent men thinking they're superior to women, etc. Okay. Number 3. After the takeover, the staff hoped that things would improve, but the new manager was just as ruthless. Is that a new word?
No.
You know that one? Can you give me its meaning, please? The meaning of ruthless. You know it, you say. Okay, so can you tell me what it means? Can you give me a synonym?
Cruel.
Cruel, very good, yes. Cruel. Cruel.
Heartless.
Yes, heartless, good. It's not actually, I would say, if you describe somebody as ruthless, it's stronger than cruel. It's like very cruel, actually. It's worse than cruel. So what do you think about that one?
Negative.
Yeah, we don't want ruthless, do we? Okay. Number 4, some men believe women are the weaker sex. The weaker sex. Negative. Okay. What does that mean? What do we mean about weaker sex?
The men dominate?
Yes. It's quite an old-fashioned term now. It's an old-fashioned term referring to women not being as strong as men, whatever that means. Okay. Number 5. Our boss is a male chauvinist and believes that women should get less money than men for the same job.
Negative.
Okay. What? Can you tell me? Negative. Okay. What does it mean? Can you give me like another term?
Feminist?
Pardon?
Biased.
Yeah. Yeah. Very biased.
Isolationist.
Very biased in favour of men over women.
Yeah.
So in other words, he's very discriminatory.
Yeah.
He's very discriminatory. Okay.
Isn't that the difference?
I mean, you've only got to look at social systems here maybe 50 years ago. And some men would say women should not go out to work. They stay at home and they look after the house. When I come home, I want my dinner on the table. How does that strike you? Male chauvinist? You see? You see how society changes. You see how there is a cultural consideration here as well. I'm aware of that. That the role of men and women depends on the society to a certain extent. But up here, I'm talking of the UK. I'm just talking of maybe 2 generations ago, like grandparents type generation. 2 generations in the past. Very, very traditional, that sort of way of thinking. Okay. Number 6.
Negative.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Number 7. Now we're talking about glass ceilings. Our company is male dominated. Male dominated. Okay. What types of job are male dominated?
Heavy duty.
Everything?
No, heavy duty work, like
Highly
factory work.
responsible, highly paid.
Yeah. But you see, I was teaching this to some Dutch students over the past few weeks. I've got some nursery nurses in there, so I've turned it around to see how it's female dominated. And I was asking them in their colleges, they have a class of 20 with one boy in it, in the nursery nurses. But last semester I had a group of engineers, and there were 18 men and 2 women. So it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sort of the disparity between the sexes. Okay. So a male-dominated profession. Do you think that's negative?
Yes,
Why? Why do you think it's negative?
because it's almost same thing as discriminatory.
Yeah. Okay. Number 8, a versatile worker.
Positive.
Yeah. Can you explain the word versatile?
Can work anywhere.
If you are versatile, what can you do?
Change this.
Many things. Yeah, many things. So maybe you can work independently, you can work as part of a team, you're good with IT. You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. Versatile, many things. So it's obviously positive, isn't it? Now then, this might be a new word, egalitarian. Have you heard of that before today? Egalitarian. Well, it's basically, it tells you in the sentence, believes that everybody should be treated equally. Like social equality.
Yeah.
No extreme rich, no extreme poor. There should be parity, you see. Parity means equalness. Disparity means a big difference. Okay. Do you think egalitarian is positive or negative?
Positive.
Yeah, okay. Most people would say that. Some would disagree. And again, people of certain political ways of thinking may disagree with that. Okay. Equality. That's an easy one, isn't it? We don't really need to discuss that. Now then, militant feminists.
Negative.
Ah, now then, you were quite... Do you know what a feminist is? Can you tell me what a feminist?
To defend women's rights.
Yes, good. Defending women's rights, maybe wanting more power for women. What does militant mean?
Extremist
Maybe, well, some people would say extreme, yeah.
or activist.
Some people would say extreme. So, you know, the way they protest or the way they show their discontent, some people would disagree with it. They think it's too extreme. Let's go right back to the women's vote. Do you know, over 100 years ago, women were not allowed to vote in this country? Okay. Who was the person who, she would have been regarded as a militant feminist then? That was Emily Pankhurst. Emily Pankhurst, she was like the leader of the women who wanted equal rights, women to vote. And at that time, as I say, she would be regarded as a militant feminist. It seems crazy now, doesn't it? All these years since. Okay, good. I think what I'm going to do with the rest of that, I'm going to leave it because I'm aware of the time and I want to move on to the report writing part of the lesson. Okay, I've given you 2 sheets there because if you look at the second bit, you can do this as homework for next week. This is a gap fill and it's a conversation between 2 people and you have to do the gap fill using the words from the box. And then the other A3 sheet I've given you, I thought this might help you with your essay writing. It's an IELTS essay about gender in society, and you have to fill in the gaps from the words from these 2 exercises. So if you want to do that, and I'll review it with you next week, okay, from the 2 sheets, the 2 big sheets. But can I please ask you now, I want to move on to the report writing part of the lesson. So this is sheet 1. Please have a look at these are the A4 sheets now. These are the small sheets, okay. So you can see why, hopefully, I've done the introduction there, because the report writing topic is women in the workplace, the glass ceiling we've talked about before. Women in the workplace. So what are the aims of today? Well, do you remember in week 1 we looked at essays and reports, so we're going to have a bit of a review on that. You're going to analyse the structure of introductions and summaries and reports. We're going to look at gender-related issues in the workplace. And as a follow-up, probably as a homework now, you're going to write a brief executive summary. Okay. Please look at the picture. There is the glass ceiling that was introduced previously. The glass ceiling. Do you understand the meaning? Why is it glass? Because you can see through it. Yeah. And what's the idea of the ceiling? There's the ceiling. But what's the idea of the glass ceiling?
You can see.
You can see it, yeah. But it stops you going higher. It's like a metaphor, isn't it? Okay. Now then, have a look at the picture. What do you notice? This is a boardroom meeting. Pardon? What do you notice? Only men. So therefore there is what? A gender disparity. There's a gender, there's no women at all. There's a male-dominated board. Okay. Have a think of these questions before we have a look at the report that you've got there on your sheets. Do you think there is a gender imbalance in most boardrooms? When we talk of boardrooms, we mean top levels of management. Do you think there is a gender imbalance? Do you think there's a gender imbalance?
Yes. No.
Ah, who said no? Okay, tell me why. You think women and men are equally present
Not really.
in top levels of management?
No, there's still some discrimination about women at the top management.
Okay. Maybe it depends on the job as well. Maybe it depends on the type of work. But of course, we're thinking of business and finance, aren't we? Look at question 2. This is an interesting international question. Are there any countries where the number of men and women at the top level is more balanced?
No.
There's more parity. Do you think it's the same everywhere around the world?
Yeah.
That's a very sort of pessimistic viewpoint, isn't it? Okay. So we're going to have a look at this in a moment. We're going to look at different countries. We're going to look at different countries and gender disparity. And question 3, what do you think prevents women from reaching top levels of management? Why is there this glass ceiling, do you think?
Maternity?
Pardon?
Maternity.
Maternity?
Yeah. You have to stop for 2
Yeah,
years.
yeah, I mean that's a good point, isn't it? Women tend to have babies. How inconsiderate of them. Okay. So yes, yeah, maternity, raising children.
And then it depends on the kind of job.
And it depends on the kind of job, yes. Anything else you can think of?
Culture?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cultural considerations. Very good. And maybe even expectations. Maybe society expects men to be more competitive and more successful than women in general. What we call a preconception. Okay. Now then, let's go back now to your handouts, which we've just covered there. But if you look at this graph, you've got this graph here. Workforce participation of women and board representation of women. On the y-axis is the ratio. So if it's 100, it's like equal, okay? And here are the proportion of women on the board. So let's have a look. Which countries have a lot of women on their executive boards? Norway,
Iceland,
Iceland,
Finland, Sweden.
yeah, the Nordic countries. The Nordic countries. And you're going to read about Sweden in a moment. Sweden as a model country. Let's do the reverse. Which countries have a low?
Japan,
Yeah,
Japan, Spain,
yeah.
Ireland,
Australia's not wonderful.
Poland.
Yeah. UK is about halfway, notice that.
Yeah.
Why is Australia highlighted?
I think because this particular graph came from Australian text. I think that's probably the reason for that. But you were talking about culture before. Now there's proof, you see. The country of origin does. Does it surprise you about the Nordic countries having more perceived gender parity than, say, Spain, Japan, etc.? Would you expect that?